tell who was voting for what, and we started with our First Amendment, and then that got outvoted, and then we had our Second Amendment, our Third Amendment, our Fourth Amendment, and it was 60-100 for every single vote. But it was so orchestrated that it was mind-blowing. They had the people all situated, the few people who actually spoke against our amendment. Everybody who spoke, the vast majority of people who spoke either in favor of or against the amendments spoke in favor of the amendments. And the vast majority of people who spoke against the amendments were people of color. And there was, the racial politics were visceral between the Bernie folks and the Hillary folks. And so that was one observation I had. And I was sitting at the Michigan table, all the Bernie people and Hillary, we all were sitting together according to our states, and the Hillary people had no interest, and I knew them. And Akiko was friends with one of them, and Bush Hollowell was on the Hillary.
Oh, he wasn't very nice to me at breakfast.
Well, he was himself. And there was no conversation. This was not a debate that was going to happen. They went in doing exactly what they were going to walk out with, and we went in attempting to try to have reasoned and reasonable debate about the substance of the issues. It was not going to happen. So 60-100, 60-100, we lost every single proposed amendment, and then all of a sudden, the two people, I don't know who was on behalf of Hillary, Bernie, and then the Hillary person and the Bernie leaders went up to the podium and said, we want a break. And so we took a break, and all of us are sitting in this room. We have no idea what's going on. And what we find out is that they're all in the back room carving out a compromise. Because the Hillary people, the thing that was very powerful to me was that even though it was a very undemocratic process, the power that the Bernie contingent had was sufficient to put enough pressure on the Hillary folks that they knew if they wanted to attract anybody into their camp, they better address this superdelegate problem. And so they went in the back room and they carved out what's called a unity compromise, which resulted in ultimately the elimination of 75% of the superdelegates for the next election. So we were successful. Foregone conclusion that everybody knew what was going to happen, including the leadership within the Bernie camp. They knew they had this unified unity proposal probably all drafted days before we showed up. Right. So we went into our back room and we caucused, and Ben Jealous and this woman from Maine who spoke at the convention, and us were just, we within our own caucus debated pretty heavily about whether or not we were going to agree with this unity compromise, and eventually, of course, the majority of us said, yeah, this is a victory, we have to treat it as a victory, and we'll support it. And so that's what we did. So we ended up, by 2020, there are going to be no unpledged, unelected officials sitting as superdelegates for the next election. My experience at the convention floor itself, I didn't get to sit on the floor either. I was up looking out over everybody, and the thing that struck me was just how masterful this whole appearance of democracy came across. It was impressive, but it was not democracy. So that's sort of my takeaway from the experience. We didn't even get to the open primary issue. That lost. So I guess that's it. I'll just answer questions.
Do you want to talk a little bit about the
Oh, yeah. So we showed up Saturday morning. We were in there for a good 12 hours. And as Lena mentioned, there was a space in the back of the room for the public, which was probably half of you could have fit in that space. And there were a ton of people who wanted to come in and watch the process. and they weren't letting them in. So they finally, you could hear out in the hallway, open the doors, open the doors, open the doors. And there was another chant that people were
They
yelling.
went to like stop the TTP and.
Oh yeah, stop TPP. They finally let more people in, but then I think they created an overflow room that people could watch video simultaneously. But people were really pissed off. And I'm done. It's my time. Organizing this meeting, I don't think I knew exactly how pissed off the speakers were going to be. What you hear is what you get. Okay, our next speaker is Al Binchich from Labor for Bernie. Al's a retired UAW local president, and he was an elected delegate to the convention.
First, I want to say how proud I am of all the people that created the Bernie movement, created the political revolution. That is what has really transformed people. What I saw in Philadelphia was transformational. What I saw were people, ordinary people, working people, mothers, fathers, people that had been involved in who became radicalized when they ran up into the face of the limitations of democracies in this country. Because that's what we saw at this convention. It is not a democratic convention. It's a Democratic Party, but it's not a democratic convention. We as delegates, the delegates are supposed to be the highest ruling body of an organization. We had no voice, which is why we stood with when we had no other option, we either chant from our seats or we stood there and did theater with tape on our mouths. From the time before we even got there, we were being slapped in the face. The WikiLeaks came out, slap. Oh, they took Debbie Wasserman Schultz out. Ooh, they put her on Hillary's campaign. Oh, the Sunday before the convention began, Michigan delegation, very people in the Michigan delegation called for a meeting of delegates to talk about several things. One was the fight against the TPP. We were going to hear Julie talk about the rules, which had happened just the night before. And we also, one of our group had contacted or met some of the folks from Election Justice USA, which is a group that had been investigating the primary elections across the country, been working for 6 months on a report which came out on the second day of the convention. And we got to preview Sunday night. And in that preview, what we were told, and I'm not a statistician, I don't know how accurate their figures are, but this was a group of attorneys, academics, statisticians, who had been working for months and said at the upper level, there were 184 delegates that probably should have went to Bernie that went to Hillary, which would have flipped the vote of the delegates, the number of delegates who had the most delegates, would have flipped that.
Pledged
Pledge. The pledged delegates.
That's why they have super delegates.
By the time that meeting was over, you had people wanted to go out and storm the ramparts that night. Now, Monday morning, we're at the hotel, and each delegation, state delegation, gets together for breakfast every morning where you get your credentials. So we're at our breakfast. First speaker gets up. Well, welcome, delegates. We're here to elect Hillary Clinton as our next president. And half the room, which are Bernie delegates, go, no! People were angry. They were visibly angry at the way they were treated that whole week.
I screamed, he won Michigan.
That's right. And we had, every speaker, the same thing. I had never seen an invocation booth before until at the convention, the woman minister giving the invocation says, "Hillary Clinton for president." It went that way for the 3 days until the vote. Now, if they would have been doing that after the vote, okay, it would have been a little more easy to swallow. But that's all besides the point. The point is this. The point is, Bernie Sanders, we don't want to have a cult of personality, but Bernie Sanders, for whatever reason, was able to capture people's imagination about the potential of what we could be doing as a society. What we could be doing as a society that's different than what we're doing now. And it was a very, very strong thing that people grasped onto and said, yeah, we can be doing it different. We could be working together for us. And you know what? That's why when Bernie was telling folks, hey, time to support Hillary. In fact, when we were standing up with our mouths taped, the Democratic Party whips came trying to get us to sit down. The Bernie whips came trying to get us to sit down. People from the Bernie campaign came and tried to get us to sit down. And we continue to stand there with our signs and our mouths taped shut because we said, we love you, Bernie, but this is our revolution. And the fight against the TPP was, or against the language they had, or the fight to improve the language they had about the TPP. The first 2 days were really a lot of energy. People, they didn't want us to bring in our signs. We brought in our signs anyway. When President Obama spoke, there was a whole debate going on online. Should we interrupt his speech? And most people decided we're going to silently hold the TPP signs. So there's been this unleashing of people power.
Right on.
That is, I think we need to continue to make sure that germinates and grows. And that's what we're going to be talking about after this. I think one of the things we should be talking about is Our Revolution campaign that's going to be starting up. And Bernie's saying that this is the way we're going to try to continue to move forward together. So, I'll end on that note, and thank you very much. And
Okay, our final speaker is Akiko Abe. Akiko was also a member of the Rules Committee, but what we've asked her to talk about is that she spent a lot of time outside the convention with the protesters. So we want to, I didn't watch a minute of this convention on TV, so I don't know what was on TV or not. I don't know if the protesters got there, but she's going to tell us what that was like. Thank you.
So I think I'm going to share more of my general takeaway and less the specific things that I was doing. But I want to preface my report with two things. One, it is imperative that people my age of all colors, genders, and sexual orientations are represented and involved in this fight for the revolution, which is why I'm standing here despite my anxiety towards public speaking. Two, I'll be sharing with you an abridged summary of my experience on the outside of the DNC, which is beautiful because it's just one perspective among thousands. I mean, I probably participated in about a quarter of the goings-on that happened that week. Going into the convention, I felt oblivious to all of the incredible, informative things that I would be experiencing, but I was so ready to dive in. When I got there, I felt welcomed on the streets. All the organizers and folks like me who had come from around the nation to have their voices be heard created a community with energy of incomparable solidarity. It's important to note that there were many different perspectives and struggles being represented that week, but this movement, led by Bernie Sanders, gave folks the language and power to discuss and act on those beliefs. Being on the Rules Committee, I'll touch on briefly. It was the first encounter that week in which I saw the DNC trying to suppress the voices of those both in and outside of the convention. So Sunday I went to the Clean Energy March, and for the purpose of point making, the Clean Energy March couldn't have been planned on a better day. We marched on Sunday for about 3 hours through 100 degrees of blistering heat. The message of the march was transitioning to 100% clean energy, but there was representation ranging from cannabis legalization to fighting sex trafficking. It felt like it was a kickoff for a week of powerful action. Despite that our march ended right in front of the MSNBC broadcasting tent, it seemed the media covered it sparingly and with like a patronizing overtone. Tuesday, the Philadelphia Coalition for Racial, Economic, and Legal Justice organized a day-long march against police terrorism and racial injustice from North Philly to Wells Fargo, with a break at City Hall for a rally where I joined. The march was incredibly well organized. While the message of the march was militant and unapologetic, the energy between marchers was nurturing and compassionate. We had an order to the way we marched, and we were constantly checking in with each other, ensuring the availability of water and snacks for everyone. This, to me, felt like how a revolution should feel. An interconnected, interdependent, concise force to be reckoned with. As we reached the last few blocks before Wells Fargo at dusk, our group of 300 unintentionally met a group of around 1,000 burners. The other group was less organized and unknowingly diluted the message of our march. This, to me, was a key issue I saw throughout the whole convention. One group unintentionally blurring, disrupting, or contradicting the message of another. It happened at the Black Men for Bernie rally, intended to celebrate Bernie and all of our hard work over the past year, when a group came into the middle of the crowd with bullhorns, trying to further their own agenda. It happened during the Bernie Delegate walkout, when they stormed the media tent, but were overshadowed by an ill-timed Jill Stein. It happened even before the convention at the People's Summit in Chicago, where it felt like every different Bernie group was competing for the spotlight instead of working together towards their common goal. This is a narrative that needs to stop. We can only move forward if we're moving in parallel. The most frequent conversations I had on the streets were on the topic of unity and structure. As Al said, he said, there's been an unleashing, right? But we need a way to make that unleashing productive. And we need unity and structure, not the seemingly coerced unity we saw from platform and rules, but one resembling an alliance. The kind of structure that allows for clear action steps so that every moment in this movement can build towards the next. The sentiment I felt was that in order to build this movement, we need to join together all social movements in order to advance racial, economic, gender, and sexual justice in our work, regardless of the specific issue. It feels as if an alliance of sorts is being yearned for, nationally and locally. An umbrella organization to connect all the different issues-based groups to encourage collaboration and harmony. It seems that nowadays, folks are a lot more moved by the issues than party affiliations. So in terms of electoral work, this alliance could endorse candidates based on a specific platform, not a party. I saw this idea of cohesion executed beautifully at the Socialist Convergence. From 5:30 to 9:30, every night that week, they gathered panels of folks from all sides of this revolution to talk through where we go from here. I think that those are the kinds of things that we need to focus on continuing moving forward, this being a perfect example. I think everyone came into that week with anger due to the media and DNC's willful ignorance towards the WikiLeaks. This was proof of the collusion between the Hillary camp, the DNC, and the media we'd suspected all along. Yet from the mouth of the powerful, it was like it hadn't even happened. And that's how it seems that actions, rallies, and protests were treated by those not in solidarity. My biggest takeaway from the convention is a need for this alliance that I spoke of earlier. And through collaboration, this revolution will succeed. Will here was also at the convention, and he was outside on the
I went there purely as a protester. I ran in the 14th to be a delegate, and luckily Labor for Bernie, they had a unity slate, and they had Bernie or Busters on there. Catherine O'Meara was one of them who was in the picture with you with all the tape. Love my delegates. That being said, what I want to talk about today is how cathartic it was to be a protester. I was able to extract the pound of flesh that you guys weren't. There were DNC people everywhere. We went out to Gino's to get Philly steak sandwiches, and a DNC staffer party was across the street. They were eating on the dining sidewalk, and here's a sweaty Will. It's 98 degrees. I'm big, I'm stinky, and I'm loud, and I'm in their face screaming, blue! Green is the new blue! You can't steal my votes and expect me to vote for you. And just on, and I'm in their face, and they don't know what to say. Just like Bruce said with the subway. The subway, they kick you off the stop before. So you're either a Bernie delegate or a Hillbot on that train. And boy, we gave them hell on that train. And you know what? They were scared. They know they are on the wrong side of history. And watch the videos online of the fence. They put up a Trump wall to keep me out. Watch those videos, because that was the only time that we could ever interact with any of the delegates, and that's shouting at them through the fence. If you take your signs and smack it against the fence, it sounds like a gunshot, and everybody's freaking out.
You guys were great. I loved being able to
it was.
Go Bernie!
Yeah,
Yeah.
there was a coalition too, because you welcomed the delegates, because the delegates walked out, and then when they did the Dem exit, the ones that wanted to Dem exit, but the problem was on the last night, they locked them in. Didn't they lock you guys in on the floor? They could not go out.
They wouldn't tell us.
They were going to do a Dem exit, and then they were going to welcome them and give them, they were going to do a ceremony, a rose ceremony.
Right, I'm Facebook friends with several of the delegates, and we tried to orchestrate it. Everybody in the crowd, even though it's, you know, this commingled group, but down there we tried to welcome our Bernie delegates, and they wouldn't tell us where they were exiting. They were there.
overtime.
Sorry.
They locked them in.
Does everyone want me to stop, or can I keep going? Is it all right with you? You're the rules.
1 minute.
1 minute. And but it was, the other thing that was very cathartic is when you saw the Bernie delegates walk in, and you know that us out there fighting by the thousands of thousands, they felt empowered to make the statements in the face. Because when we ran in the 14th for the delegate position, it was blue no matter who. And I didn't stand up then and say, I'm not blue no matter who. I knew back then that I can't vote for Hillary. But I didn't have the cojones to say that. But I hope that us cheering on that fence empowered our delegates to fight hard in there.
Wait, like 2 minutes.
You can be called off from the floor.
Okay, sure.
All right.
Can I just say one more thing? I'm sorry.
Okay, don't you want to give me a second?
I just wanted to let everyone know that I have like an incredible amount of resources and ways to stay involved. So if you have interest in any specific issue, just come see me after, and I can try and connect you with your local organization.
Great.
Excellent. Okay, I'm going to pass the hat. Unlike in the rich city of Detroit, where you can get the library for free, here in Royal Oak, you have to pay for the library. It costs us $75. So I hope people will give generously, and that your donation can also maybe get you a button or a poster or something. All right, so we're going to go till approximately 8 o'clock, maybe a little bit later, with questions and comments. You had your hand up a long time ago, so I'll call on you.
Stand up.
Stand up. And if you're with a particular group or something, say your name.
My name is Diane Fowler, and I was one of the rebellious teens.
No?
Yeah.
That's me looking like a bug. That is Al. So this is us. I wanted Lena to perhaps address this.
it's also worth knowing that some of us were physically assaulted. Yeah, I was assaulted by a Libray delegate. She was sitting behind me, put her hands on my shoulders and shook me and screamed in my ear. So, and while I was being interviewed by a reporter, she actually. Speak up. When I was being interviewed by a reporter, she actually screamed repeatedly during the interview, standing behind us. So there was a lot of that going on. A lot of people in California had water thrown on them. There was a lot of things going on. So there's a documentary filmmaker, which I'm not going to get all of it. I wanted to share with you here. This is home. There's a documentary filmmaker putting together a documentary talking about this.
Thank you, Diane. We'll come back to Lena after we get some more questions. We'll give all the panelists a chance.
Yes, Ron Galata. I've been active for 50 years. I just want to thank everybody who got involved, because I think the frustration is bad, but the fact is you've made a major impact in this country and on people. And the delegates, I'm so proud of you for going there. I know it's difficult. I hope you go against next time, Bruce, even if it is difficult. I'll help you. But what we have to do is to figure out how we were able to accomplish this. We've been trying to do this for 50 years, and we have not been able to break through the corporate media and the corporate Democrats. I like to call us Bernie Democrats. Bernie Democrats versus corporate Democrats. And as a result, we have a chance to really change this country and change the Democratic Party and make things function differently. And it's the first time we've had that chance in 50 years. And so I really want to urge people not to get so frustrated and remember what you've done. I've been involved in this for so long, I've never seen it before. We had revolutionary struggles in the 60s, but they were all divided up, and we didn't have and they killed our leaders. They killed Martin Luther King, they killed Malcolm X, they killed Bobby Kennedy. So we now have a chance to really make something happen, and I think Bernie is a key to that. His strategy worked. And so we got to look at what his strategy was, how he did it, and therefore use that to keep the revolution going. And I just want to say, all power to the people.
I have a question for Julie and the rest of you. When you said that you weren't able to get the, a minute, I wrote it down. Open primary, that you couldn't get the open primary done, is that something that could be done on a state-by-state basis through the party? Now, I'm not saying.
Always could be done.
So it's
Whether
still.
the DNC was going to.
Right.
So what we were proposing that those states that had closed primaries would have to pay some. You can't stop them from having closed primaries, but what we were proposing was that there would be consequences to the power of those states who did have closed primaries, so that their delegates would be weighted less, or their votes would be worth less, or that kind of thing. We couldn't have stopped them, but it just didn't go. It didn't go anywhere. And but it was included in there's a commission that's been created, this Unity Commission, and there are certain things they're mandated to do. The one thing is to eliminate 75% all the unelected superdelegates. Yeah. But they're also mandated to explore, alternatives to closed primaries.
My second question, follow-up to that is, was there any feedback? Now, we have an open primary.
Well, it's called semi-open because you have to declare your status when you get to the person. And that causes an intimidation for some people.
Well, my question is, was there any feedback, pushback on rules? Was there any pushback to shrink whether we agree or don't agree about whether it's open. Was there any pushback to shrink what is, some would consider now, an open primary in Michigan?
Well, interesting.
I
know, but
No.
the one time that one of our Hillary delegate, our Rules Committee members actually spoke, he was a person of color, and he spoke very strongly against open primaries. And he very dishonestly reported that in Michigan, with open primaries, communities of color were losing Democratic races because Republicans were sneaking in and voting. So there was that kind of pushback. So, yeah. And that was, it was infuriating.
Hello, Dennis Bryant, Detroit from Bernie, Labor for Bernie. When it came to talk about, this is to the committee and rules members, when it came to Wall Street reform, how did those conversations go?
Okay, we're gonna come back to, get a couple more questions.
Campaign finance answer.
Sir.
Just real quick, Dave Blake, and a lot of you know my political sentiments. By and large, I don't know what the fuck to do in November. Irrespective, just a directed question. It seems to me, as someone who wasn't there, that one of the most egregious exercises was removing Nina Turner. And does anybody have the real scoop on what happened there? Because it's, from what I gleaned, that could have been just kind of most obscene assault on Bernie Sanders and our people.
So I was there, and I actually talked to someone who's close to Nina Turner right after that happened. So what happened? Hi, my name's Neil Oza. I was a delegate also at the convention. So I talked to someone who's close to Nina Turner right after it happened on Tuesday night. So first on Monday night, Bernie wanted her to introduce him when he gave his speech Monday night. And they told him, the DNC and the Hillary campaign waited until the last minute when Nina Turner was getting ready to introduce him. And they told him, no, you can't have her do that. She's not allowed to go up there. She's not allowed to speak on that stage.
What?
And I'll get to that after, because it was ridiculous. But it does, I think it gives us a little bit of hope. Why? Because it gives us some power. Because she is one person who the DNC is scared of. They're not scared of Bernie anymore. You know, he has a lot of influence, but they're not scared of him anymore. That, you know, a lot of people they've been able to silence, they've been able to, you know, make deals, and we got a little further because of those things, but they haven't been able to do that with Nina Turner, and they're terrified of her being up on that stage. They were terrified of her voice. And then on Tuesday night, it was even worse. So again, first Tulsi Gabbard nominated him, and then he needed someone to come and second him, and that he wanted that to be Nina Turner. And then she was told she was going to second him, and she showed up. There was no one from the DNC or either campaign to be able to coordinate that. They didn't let anyone from the Bernie campaign coordinate it. So she was told to be in the wrong spot, and she just didn't know what was happening. And they sent out a union guy to second his nomination who Bernie did not even know. And it was a guy who, because in his speech, so this is the one speech throughout the time where they're supposed to say why the delegates should all vote for Bernie. The guy said, it's time for us to unify behind Hillary Clinton. Yeah. So that was one of the most disgusting things, and that really stood out to me. And Nina Turner, I know for a fact, walked out of there. She was in tears. She was, you know, they embarrassed her, and we cannot, you know, they just can't let that stand. I think, you know, and she's someone who we all know Democrats should be proud to have in our party, and who, you know, even recently after the convention, she said, you know, I'm a Democrat, that's worth fighting for. That sounds to me like someone who they should want up on that stage. And instead they tried to suppress her voice.
And if I can give my 2 cents on that, if there was anything I was disappointed in Bernie about, that was it. That he did not say, wait a minute, remember?
Yeah.
No, he wouldn't say that. I would. That is who was going to introduce me, or that is who's going to second my nomination, and if you don't do, well, especially that first night, you want me to, or the last night, you want me to make that motion to accept her by acclamation. She's going to be up there. If not, I'm not doing it. And that was the one thing I was disappointed in
You never
Bernie
know
about.
why he did that.
Maybe he
Because-
didn't know. What if he didn't know because they sent her on a wild goose
Yeah,
chase?
he was told last second, when she was supposed to second, he was told last second.
That's what they do.
and
That's how they
he
do it.
seemed
They plan that
to-
out.
he had to prepare
They-
Dallas and
They are
Brown.
masters. These
They
people are
had it planned very well. so-
They got money.
Okay, we've heard a number of questions from the floor. I cannot remember them all, but panelists, did you want to respond to some of the questions that we heard earlier?
Well, I have a comment. Okay, well, I mean, one of the things I'm one of the people who I don't know whether I'm a Bernie or bust person at this moment. And one thing I think that really stood out for me was within the Bernie delegation itself in Michigan, there is a definite tension between those who are saying, all right, we can't let Trump win, so that means voting for Hillary. Or, no, we gotta stand up for our principles and not let ourselves be intimidated, to vote for somebody who we genuinely don't support. And it's a tension that I think, I'm hoping that it evolves into a continuing furtherance, forward of the political revolution that Bernie's trying to build, and that we actually are able to recoalesce after November. But I do have some concerns about how that's going to play itself out over the next 3 months. So I just wanted to throw that out.
Okay. Well, we specifically did not want this meeting to be a debate between how you should vote in November. We have a lot of other things to talk about, so.
Diane had a question about the
Oh, yeah.
thumbs up,
Can I make
thumbs
a
down.
motion?
Oh, that's right.
Procedure.
Just-
Make a motion.
No, not yet. I'm in charge here.
Yes.
Excuse me, this is my husband, so he feels like he can. Okay, we had at least 2 questions from the floor that I promised I would try to get answers from the panel. One was from Dennis, and what was the other question?
The thumbs up and thumbs down.
Yes.
Diane.
Okay,
Yeah.
did you want to try to do that, Lena?
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry, I really didn't come prepared before. I really apologize earlier when I spoke sort of off the top of my head. That was an emotional response of that whole week based on what Bruce was talking about. But I did write a lot about what happened on the committee, the final amendment, how the HRC camp, that's what I call them, how they would pressure people into voting certain ways. They either pressure you, threaten you, or they promise you something. And the minority report situation where we signed 6 minority reports and the campaign decided to back down. So that was hard for us to deal with. But as far as how the HRC camp pressures you, they had for the HRC camp, they were using texting, GroupMe, they used GroupMe, they did that on the floor too. They used GroupMe text. And then they also had, people standing, and we had green and we had red, but we never had anybody force us or ask us or push us. They told we could vote our conscience pretty much. I mean, they would say, yeah, this is one we want. That's the way I thought of it, because I couldn't read every single, we did 232 amendments, right? And we, withdrew some of them. So, they're doing like this, but the other people, the Hillary folks are like, they're just down that line when it was, you couldn't have conversations with them about
They were like
any of
odd
these.
people.
Yeah, it really did feel like there was a definite difference in socioeconomic. That was very obvious. All the delegates that came in, these people, we had delegates that came in from California and Florida and Georgia and whatnot that wanted to be guests, this one guy, this horrible guy from Tennessee called them the peanut gallery and everything. That was not good. But it was just this weird tension between the progressive, we are obviously the progressive wing of this party that wants to kind of return the Democratic Party back to its original values and get away from all this corporatist, control, because that's what happened. And I'm sorry, but the Clintons did it. I lived through the 90s, okay? And he made deals because he was told to make deals. He worked with Dick Morris, read his stuff. Dick told him, go moderate. So he made these deals, he did this crime bill, he did the welfare bill, he did this to get the stuff passed with the Republicans for his own power, not for the people's good. And I think that's the difference. That's what Bernie, ignited in us, is that we want something that's for the people, that's good for the people. Why are you poisoning and killing the people? We know 100,000 people in Flint. What is that? They are killing us, literally. And that's why you have people in the street, and you have us on the floor, me up in the committee, we're doing whatever we're doing. Me and Christine Kramer just we're booing with them on the Monday night. There's people around us that are hillbots. And it's kind of scary. They were even told by text, don't do anything alone, because then it was like Bernie said, stop it. And then they were like, don't do anything alone because they will rip you out of your chair and take you out and you lose your credentials or whatever. So it was a lot of, I can't.
That's what a revolution's about.
Yeah.
Okay, for the people, what a concept. Does anybody from the panel have an answer to Dennis's question? Say it again, Dennis.
Wall Street before, what were those meetings like, specifically about, with the Bernie people? What were the Hillary people, what was their reasoning for not having or having Wall Street before?
That sounds like one for you, Lisa.
The only thing I can remember actually was on campaign finance.
Brainwashing for years, for decades, brainwashing.
Brainwashing.
That's why they don't want to have Wall Street, they don't want to have Wall Street reform. They've been brainwashed into it. I know, on Monday night, I was
They just
a
told
delegate
them what to do, basically.
On Monday night,
And what to think and how to vote, for real.
on Monday night, we were on US State together. Al and I, on Monday night, Monday was 102 degrees, so I had a meeting in the morning. I'm MEA too, MEA retired. So I had a meeting in the morning to get my precious stipend from NEA, so I didn't want to screw that up. So I went to that, but I had to walk 6 blocks to get there in 102 degrees. Didn't know it was 102 degrees. I'm just walking and drinking water, not Gatorade, walking and drinking water. And then went back to hear Bernie speak another 6 blocks back. Through 3 huge buildings to find where he was. And the people that were supposed to help us could not direct us like where to go. They're like,
oh, well no, that's because, the credentials, we didn't tell you about that. The super volunteers of Bernie's, there were 800 of them. They de-credentialed them. They let 200 of them on one day. They were supposed to be the volunteers to help the delegates with anything they needed on the floor. And then the second day they de-credentialed all of them, all 600 of them.
I wonder why they didn't know anything.
That's why nobody knew anything, because the Hillary people pushed them out. These people did what we did. They raised money, they paid to come, they drove. They were living in hostels. They put them up in hostels. They had a Bernie meeting on the phone, they have of what they're gonna do. This is what you're gonna do for the delegates.
They were out with us.
Right.
They were out with us. They were.
Yeah.
We met them.
They said go to Broad Street after the Bernie meeting. I go, where's Broad Street? I don't know. I don't live here. I'm not from Philadelphia. I've never been there before. They go, well, we don't know either. Okay, finally I find my way out, and it's 102 degrees. And it's hotter and hotter. And I'm standing with a mass of people, no line for like 6, 7, 8, I don't know how many buses kept coming. But we're just standing like a big pack. Finally I said, I'm just going to call, I've never used Uber before, but I was talking to these 2 young guys. I said, Uber, I'll call Uber and they'll come get us. So I did that. Got in there, and by then my brain was kind of like, bleh.
Wall Street.
So I go to Wells Fargo, Wells Fargo, the arena where the convention was, and I'm sitting there right behind MEA people. I wanted to sit on the aisle, so I go up and down. So the people going up and down after they spoke, I could shake their hand when they walked by, which I did. I shook Keith Ellison's hand and Cornell Belcher's hand. I said, good speech, good speech. But I was kind of like, bleh, becoming like a wet dish rag from all that heat and no Gatorade and my electrolytes were getting shot and all that. But the people in front of me, all MEA, they were getting so incensed with you guys. And I just kind of like shrank back and said, I don't think I'm gonna boo. I will cheer Bernie like crazy, which I did. But it was very intimidating. And I'm not a nervous person. I don't react to, but I was like falling apart from the heat. And these people in front of me were screaming, and I heard a couple days later when I talked to another guy on the bus, I won't mention his name, but he's an activist from Saugatuck right now, and he said, oh yeah, these 2 people were texting someone like over 100 times. I swear he said 700, but it might have been 170. They texted him about you guys, They're
what to do.
defacing signs, go get them, they're doing this, go get them.
Go to aisle
I said, they're
A4.
driving me nuts, because they
Bring
kept
out-
jumping up and
They had
shouting.
stuff, they had stuff in the aisleways ready and prepared for you guys 2 hours before you got there, so that they could do this with the big signs if you guys were holding up TPP signs.
Exactly, so
They were
did-
ready.
I heard they had white noise machines even, but the whole idea of USA, which is really a Republican thing, I mean, we're all in the United States. We're not United States against another country, but that was a white noise plan.
Right.
If they all stayed up and shot USA while anybody was booing, then that was it. But they said, I heard them say too, that they wanted to do every other person. They wanted to get between you all and separate you all, and I said, oh, please don't tell me you're gonna do that bullshit, that's crap. But, so the next day I missed it because I was all crazy from the heat.
Okay, all right, Peter.
I'm Peter Landon, the proud husband of James Potter, and member of the Labor Committee for Bernie. Our revolution, you know, great sentiment out there, like Akiko spoke to and others about, you know, coming together in the social movements and our vision for a different sort of America. There's a reason why Bernie wasn't a Democrat until about a year and a half ago, right? So all these war stories that we're hearing from the Democratic Party convention, I'm not surprised at.
Right.
It's a club, it's an association, it's a part of the 1% for the most part in terms of their vision for America.
Yep.
So we got to think long and hard about our revolution and what it means going forward. Now, for any of those of you, like Ron, that have been advocating, you know, for this is our opening for the Democratic Party, I'm not one of them, but I know there are people out there, and just like Julie spoke to, you know, how are people going to vote? And of course, we're all concerned about Trump, et cetera, so what are we going to do? But I would say to those of you that are considering reforming, redefining, reimagining the Democratic Party, this is about as close as you're going to get, this convention, and you're hearing the war stories of how it went down. So to my mind, it's a waste of time. If you're going to do it, think of yourselves in terms of it being a tea party, right? Our version of a tea party. To me, that's the best it's going to be, and I give you, you know, good luck.
People
But
power.
that's what it's about. But when I get back to like what Akiko spoke to is we need an alliance. We need some sort of organizational form to sort of cohere this. I know that Bernie on August 24th is going to talk about our revolution in a televised address. I suspect it's going to be a lot of inside-outside, and most of it's going to be oriented towards inside the Democrats and oriented towards his version of the Tea Party in the Democratic Party, and I'm not interested in that. So the question is, well, then what do you do otherwise? We want to focus on the down ballot over the next few years, but I really believe that folks are going to say we got to look towards 2018, right, and the by-elections, and challenge Hillary there or give her support. I don't think we'll be giving her support, at least this crowd, because I believe she's going to carry on an agenda that is not our revolution agenda. So I'm really looking forward to the second half of this meeting, where we break up in terms of what's next in substance and what we can do going forward. But we really need organization. So I'm really interested in who has access to those phone lists, who has access to the list of the $27 donations in Michigan or above, and who has access to, if nothing else, Southeast Michigan lists, and how we can work off of those in building what comes next.
Thank you.
2 more minutes, this lady.
Actually, pain medicine, I'm a little bit wobbly. My name is, pain medicine, I'm a little bit wobbly, but I'll try and not ramble. My name is Carolyn Lowe, and Lena and I met at the Farmington Farmers Market on Saturday, and she invited me to come because I was a Bernie supporter. I worked through the Progressive Democrats of America making calls. But I'm also doing something else, voter registration, and I'm working for Vicki Barnett, who's challenging our little local version of Trump, Brooks Patterson. Hard to say his name. I don't want to trip over my purse. I don't know if this is the time, but you're all here and you're all enthused, so I'm making it the time. Vicki supports a lot of what you believe in, and she needs people. She can win. The demographics have changed in Oakland County. If we can get her in, She supports transit, she supports weed, she supports labor, women's reproductive rights, name it. She's all about what you're about. And if she can get in, even if we get a Republican legislature, Oakland County is powerful enough so that the Democrats will still have some ability to influence legislation in Lansing. So it's really important that we work for her and give money to her. And I'm doing a fundraiser with Alan Kaufman. This just came up, where we're trying to get organizations, if everybody gives like $10 and then it's like $500 and we'll take it to that fundraiser. But I'm not here actually to ask you for money. I'm more here to ask you if as an organization you could think about working for Vicki, because she needs a ground game. She needs people out there who will canvass and who will call.
Right on.
So,
Thank you, Carolyn.
thank you.
Yes, hi. My name is James Mitchell, and I was also a delegate to the convention. My biggest concern is I don't know if we had the coordination as the Hillary Clinton people did. I didn't really know what was going on. I didn't even know we had whips until I found out Michelle was a whip. I mean, I don't know if the other people felt that way, the people that weren't a part of the rules.
You probably found out a day before.
So,
okay, I'm joking, sorry. Take that back.
But it is true from some of the Hillary people, that Monday night got them upset with the tape, and they went into overdrive. That much is true for the people that didn't go. That is true because I knew some of those people from our Michigan delegation. They went into overdrive. Their whips were calling. They had meetings in the morning. And I had no idea. Only thing that I got to go to that was really for Bernie was his Monday afternoon speech in the meandering convention center. The convention center was not the same as Wells Fargo. That was made clear to you guys. And luckily, Como is nice and linear and it's easy to get around. The Pennsylvania Convention Center or the Philadelphia Convention Center is downtown, and it's a good concept, but it's hard to follow. They took buildings and just put skywalks. So you start in one building, and then before you know it, you're in another. But the point is, that's the only one that I got to where all other Bernie Sanders delegates were. But we didn't have, at least from the Michigan side, I didn't know anything that was going on. I'm hearing these stories afterwards, what was happening with the tape. I didn't know certain people were going to do this and do that. It would have been nice to be able to, if we had something, I don't know if we thought we needed to have that kind of communication, but it would have been nice.
Yeah.
If I could address that, that was one of the major problems. And it goes to what Akiko was saying also about, people stepping on each other unknowingly. And that happens when you're not organized. And part of the problem is, social media is a really wonderful tool for communication, but there are so many different social media things. There was this thing called the Slack, and there was what the thing Lena was talking about, and there was like different groups were using different communication tools, and unless you were looking at each one of them, you could tell what everyone else was doing. The tape thing was impromptu. They have microphones by each sign that had a state. There was a microphone. And how many people did you see speak at the Democratic Convention from the floor? Well, I'm sorry. When they voted, that was it.
Roll call, that's it.
The roll call vote, and other than that, we had no voice. So that was an impromptu thing. We covered our mouth with tape. We had no voice. We're going to demonstrate. But so that was impromptu, and people were doing things impromptu. Now the TPP, I do have to say, there's a woman delegate, Lauren Stein, I think it's Steiner, from California. She was communicating to people across the country about, and so that, because we had to pick one thing. There's 100 things we could have been fighting over. The TPP was decided to be the thing we could focus on one thing. And so that got the most response. They brought in 2,000 vinyl TPP signs, so you could fold it up, put it in your notebook, and open them up. Yep.
It was, looking at it from above, it really was quite a sight.
Yeah.
It was great.
So I had 2,000 of it.
All right. Okay, so let's just have one or two more, and then we want to go to the what's next portion. I'm sorry, sister, you already spoke once, so I want to get somebody who hasn't spoken. How about you?
I have a question in regards to Jill Stein's presence outside the convention. I know that for the gentleman who was outside protesting in Akiko, I'd just like to hear a little bit about that, the Green Party presence outside of the protests. I know that there was a Bernie or Bust rally I checked out online. The connection's not good, but she was a featured speaker at this Bernie or Bust rally. I was a little bit confused about the Green Party's presence outside. So I just want to hear a little bit about that.
Who has something?
Black Men for Bernie had Jill.
I mean,
And it was a day for Bernie on Wednesday, and they had her, I think they found out later, she kind of was around, I think, kind of thing.
Every single rally.
Yeah, she was
I met her several times. At the
she was
Bernie
at
or
lots
Bust
of rallies, she walked, she talked, she was everywhere.
At the Bernie or Bust rally, Jill Stein herself.
Why are you speaking? There's lots of people who can speak about that.
Well, the gentleman asked me to directly.
No, I was
because
just
I'm a
trying to say that
protester.
he spoke
I didn't
at
mean
the
to interrupt
Black Men
Lena.
for
I'm
Bernie.
from But he asked me.
I didn't finish. I wasn't finished.
I'm sorry, Lena. I'm not trying to step on your
we're all right
toes.
there.
I wasn't finished. That's right.
Sorry.
Okay, let's let Lena finish
Yep.
what she was going
So
to say.
she spoke at the Black Men for Bernie thing, and Black Men for Bernie definitely is pro Green Party. There's a huge movement to the Greens. They needed something. The folks needed something. They were out there fighting. We cannot. The way that they feel about it, and the delegates that walked on Tuesday night, because there was a silent protest. They walked out. I was out there. I was doing interviews, trying to explain stuff, but they can't vote for Hillary because of this whole corporatist thing, and just that it seems totally opposite and antithesis, whatever that word is, to antithetical to Bernie, and they just can't do it. It's just in their gut. So, but anyway, she is picking up on that, of course, and it's easy for her to do that because she has a party that already has this stuff very easily, can walk right into this. And she's actually been along the whole way talking to us, saying, hey, it's time, let's do this thing, let's do this thing. And so now you've got people that want to do something. And I don't see anything wrong with what I think I like about our revolution is our revolution. We can choose to support people based on the issues. So we'll go for the Democrats right now, or whatever. We'll work for people, we'll canvass, we phone bank. This is what we do. And then maybe we do something in terms of challenging the oligarchy, because we just can't do it in our gut. It just isn't something. Bernie, there's also a meme going around. It's Bernie when it was like in April, he was on TV, whatever, debate. The guy asked him, and he says, if I ever tell you to vote for, don't listen to me. I wouldn't expect you to, basically. Okay? He says, vote your conscience. So there is a divide. There's a vote your conscience divide, and there's a, well, Bernie said vote for Hillary divide. And that's just the way it's going to be, and I think we can exist in both realms. We just have to keep working.
We're past 8 o'clock already. I'm going to let two panelists come back on this question. Bruce and then Julie.
First of all, are there any journalists in the room? Are there any journalists in the room? I'm going to tell you something that I don't want really getting outside the room.
Just so you off the road.
Okay, so I just want to tell you one thing I heard. Okay, listen up. I'm serious. I did hear from Michelle. This is not, I can't confirm this. I have no good sourcing on this except she didn't deny what I said, which is that Bernie, there apparently has, according to Michelle, there has been a deal struck with Bernie. Bernie will get a very powerful position, not in the cabinet, but something other than the cabinet, that especially I think if the Democrats retake the Senate, that will put him in a very good, powerful position to continue the revolution. I hope, you could all draw your own conclusions what that position might be. I can't confirm this other than my short conversation with Michelle. So I think this would be a good segue to, we need to continue our revolution. Bernie started us and we have to continue it forward, and hopefully we can make a difference with what we're going to do here the rest of the night.
That's right. Thank you. Yes. Thank you. But I have these two very insistent panelists who still want to say something more, so be quick, guys. All right.
just real quickly, I was going inside and outside throughout the entire week, and I'm on the National Lawyers Guild, and I put on my little legal observer hat every time I went out, and it was a tremendous feeling out there. And I think of it on the inside, what was so amazing to me on the inside was there were more people walking around inside that convention who never would have found themselves inside the Democratic Party convention before this election season. And to me, it presented tremendous, I mean, it was amazing the kinds of conversations that were going on, the issues that people were grappling with that never before would the Democratic Party have ever given more than 2 cents to. And so I think there is a real potential for building a truly democratic movement within the Democratic Party, but I'm not convinced that that's truly possible. Yeah. But I think if it is possible, ever has been possible before, it's possible now. But I think that our job is to continue working both on the outside and the inside, and I think we have to be prepared to go from the Democratic Party to a viable third party at a moment's notice. But what's amazing about this potential is there's an institution that already exists, and there's a machine that already exists, and that machine is now being forced to take our issues seriously and at least give them credence. And it's our job to continue putting the pressure on, whether we're working inside the Democratic Party or outside. I think this is a moment that we need to not let escape from us. And so those are just
Just food for thought as we move towards figuring out what to do in the future. At the end of the convention, or just before the end of the convention, I think a lot of burners were going through a grieving procedure. And we were at various stages, either angry or depressed or whatever. All those things are.
5 stages. Still are.
Yeah. We're still working out, we're still trying to heal ourselves. And so when I get angry once in a while. And I was pretty angry, and I said, that's it, I'm gonna go vote for Jill Stein. That's it. Screw it. And but then I talked to Julie about a conversation she had with Ralph Abernathy's daughter. And I think most of you know who Ralph Abernathy is.
Well, the oldest of them is there.
She talked to Julie about how her home was firebombed in '64, and that if Trump got elected, it would set the civil rights movement back 50 years, and she didn't want her daughter having the same kind of fears. And again, it was a pretty powerful thing, because coming from, white privilege, I'm not thinking about that kind of stuff, right? And so it made me step back and think, okay, I got to rethink things. But then I read an article the other day, which I posted on Facebook, about the whole spoiler thing, right? The third party's a spoiler. And that if we always say, well, we can't do it this time because it'll spoil things, then it maintains the two-party system. So now I'm thinking again, maybe I have to rethink.
Yeah.
Food for thought. Yeah.
Some people think it's bad already right now, though. When you look at all the black people that are in, and the reason why they're in jail, that's why black men were for Bernie, and that's why they're green. Also, that explains why they're green. It's because our black brothers are in jail. There are more black men in jail or black people in jail than we had in slavery. That's a lot of freaking people. Okay? So we look at it differently. A lot of us that are going green are going from the standpoint of we're already here. We're being shot, we're being put in jail, and it's all because of the oligarchy, because it has to do with, it's all economics, and it has to do with excess labor. They do not want these black men on the street. What are you going to do? They ain't got a job. And they don't want to pay for them to have a job. They'd rather pay for them to be in a cage. Okay? And that's why I think that's why the Black Men for Bernie allowed Jill to be there. And that's why Jill was there. Because Jill has a very good, she's got a rapport with the black community. Cornel West, you got to listen to Cornel West. Go to the Real News on YouTube. He talks about Jill, and I love the way he speaks. And once you hear him speak, you're like, oh, this is just the beginning, y'all. Because when she is on the MSM, she is down. She's like, you cannot shake this woman just like you couldn't shake Bernie. And that's why we're kind of like, ooh. Well, you just never know. She can shake it up. I don't care. I don't care what. There's also some other dude that just got in. Romney's got a dude in now. He's 40 years old. He's bald. He's cute. He's Iraq war veteran. It can mess things up.
Yeah.
We can't say what's going to happen in the future. We don't know. People are woke. That's all I'm trying to say. People are woke,
no,
right?
I agree.
It's a long time now, November.
As long as let her move forward. But I just want to say, some of us are already here, and that's why we're not
Just let her
afraid.
do her thing.
I'm just saying that's why we're not afraid.
No fear. Why did my fellow committee members put this on me? This is the rowdiest bunch I've ever tried to chair a meeting of. Okay, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. All right. We've heard it mentioned August 24th. Does everybody know what's happening August 24th? Bernie is doing a live stream where he's going to talk about our revolution.
Yes.
How many people, raise your hands, are already planning to have a house meeting or some other meeting where people can watch this? Okay, Bruce Feaulk is one. These people over here. Carolyn, I don't know what time. 9 p.m. We're going to your house. Yeah, you coming?
Yeah.
Good. So y'all are having one? Okay, this is the house of Akiko and Susan Steigerwald. So everybody will be able to follow their social media and see to go to this meeting. Now, I said earlier we're going to break down into at least 2 groups. Those 2 groups are people who want to talk about the Green parties and people who want to talk about the TPP. Are there any other people that want to have a subgroup that will meet in this room? Don?
Yeah, I'm here indirectly representing a group called Brandon Congress. Some of you have already
Yes.
Odds are, if you've emailed them in the last few months, I'm probably one of the 3 people who's been answering your email. Basically, the idea is they're trying to carry on the Bernie ideal, but we're focusing solely on the 2018 midterms and beyond because this November is such a complete cluster screw that nobody would. We're completely, even among Brandon Congress's members and lead activists, they're divided over the whole Bernie or bust issue, so we're not even touching that mess. We're focusing on everything after November.
Can you tell us where the meeting's going to be at?
The one, they've just rescheduled to September 20th. I believe it's going to be at Anchor Bar. They haven't reached out.
Well, they changed the date?
Yeah, it was in the
John, are you wanting to have a
Yes.
Okay, good. And did you have one also, brother?
I guess piggybacking off of BNC, I was just going to say people who want to help work to elect local Bernie grads.
Carolyn, do you want to be in that group?
Yeah.
Okay, so, yes, you?
My name's Kyle Cooper. I'm from the Dr. Anu Kumar for Congress. He's running for U.S. House in the 11th district. He has very Bernie-esque policy points, and he's also running against a Trump supporter, David Trott. He's one of the 5th most wealthy congressmen in Congress. He takes money from Goldman Sachs and Donald Trump himself, and he's the foreclosure king of Metro Detroit. So, yes, an awful man. So, Dr. Kumar is a wonderful person, and we are looking to get him elected. So, if you live in Troy, Lawson, Rochester Hills, Auburn Hills,
So do you want to have your own little group, or do you want to be with the Brandon Congress people?
I can be with them. That's perfectly
Okay,
fine.
okay.
Sure.
All right, so we've got 3 groups. Green Party, TPP, and people who are working for particular candidates. And we're now going to hear, you heard the motivation for people to go to the candidates group. Fran, very briefly, on
Yeah, very
Green Party.
briefly, there were a lot of people who were Bernie-crats, who were Dem-exit people, who've gone into the Green Party and are using the Green Party as a way to continue the movement that started, over a year ago. there's lots of people who were at the Houston convention, a couple of people here who want to report back, and things to talk about in terms of moving forward, not just in electoral politics, but moving forward as a social movement too. So we're going to meet back here for people who are interested in the Green Party, in the, the election and beyond. So please come and join us. Some of you know that on August 17th, there's going to be a CNN town hall with Jill Stein too. So check that out.
All right, so the Green Party people will meet back there. The candidates people will meet over here. And Diane, will you please motivate the TPP?
Okay, so I think the TPP people should meet in the front. While I actually am planning on voting on Jill Stein, I thought, what is the kind of campaign that all of us, no matter who we're voting for in November, can work on? And because the TPP is so important at this particular moment, Hillary says she's for it. Of course, we know she isn't really. But she says she's against it. She says that she. But the point is, during the late period is when Obama wants to have Congress vote for it. So if we were very united, no matter who we vote for, who campaign we work on, if we work on the TPP and it's something we can go broad on, then I think we can try to prevent a vote coming during the lame duck Congress. So if by the time that probably Hillary takes office and we have defeated the TPP, I'm sure it'll come up again in another version, but it would be a tremendous victory for us, and it would be a way that we could unite ourselves even while we're doing different things in November.
All right, so the
Yeah.
Jay, I have a question before we break into our groups real quick.
Okay.
Wait, I just want to know, what is, if we're breaking into our groups, what do we want to come out of?
Oh, I'm sorry, my bad. At the end of that time, oh boy, you're only going to have about 20 minutes. We'll reconvene and we'll have somebody report back from each group what they've come up with, okay? And very quickly, this brother was on Bernie's campaign staff and he has an announcement.
Hello everyone, welcome. My name is Willie Bird and I was the field director for Detroit. 3 days on the job, I get a call from the state director, Ryan Hughes, to be the field director for all of Wayne County. I just want to say I'm proud of the work you all have done because we couldn't have not one Michigan without you, so I give you all a round of applause. Next, tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock, actually at 9:30 a.m., we're going to have a press conference in Detroit. I think Hillary Clinton people need to hear from the Detroit delegates. The delegates here in Michigan need to hear from the Bernie's people. So
we. Yes, and I can Bernie delegates didn't make these decisions.
Well, the deal is grassroots supporters. I'm Sam Riddle. I'm not here in capacity as Michigan political director, Nan. I'm here as a veteran political consultant. I didn't do the slavery piece, but I did do the other piece you talked about. But the point I'm making is that it'll be grassroots supporters, people that voted for Bernie. They don't have to have a damn title or anything. They supported Bernie Sanders. There's too many title-conscious people. But we'll be holding a 10 p.m. press conference right outside of Martin Luther King Jr. apartment complex, which is symbolic of the two Detroits, symbolic of wealth and inequality in Detroit. And we'll be holding a press conference. We'll really be kind of slamming the Democratic Party and the organizers of Hillary in Detroit and Wayne County, who are using the Trojan horse approach to negate the impact of grassroots supporters of Bernie Sanders, who are just totally being ignored as they, try to build a presidential campaign. But they're using the same nuts. They couldn't organize for Hillary in the primary effectively to try to win something statewide in November. I also have worked with the Congress paper with a fat white boy named Michael Moore. We founded a paper many years ago called The Flint Voice, me, him, and Dan Kildee. And I'm also doing some work with him on a kind of national level too in terms of the get out.
Okay, so press conference tomorrow.
10 o'clock at the corner of Lafayette and St. Albans.
Here, take a picture.
So we asked everybody to park at St. John's Presbyterian Church. And I can give you all the address to that. To St. John Presbyterian Church. Actually, 1961 East Lafayette, Detroit, Michigan, zip code 48207. So that's 1961 East Lafayette, Detroit, Michigan 48207. That's St. John Presbyterian Church. We're gonna meet right there in that parking lot.
Lafayette and St. Albans, right at where you enter the window cut off of Lafayette.
Okay, can we move into our
Yes.
personnel, please?
Thank you.